what a pleasure it is to catch up with one of the all-time great Dallas Cowboys, who was getting ready for the Ring of Honor coronation, I guess, and instead to say, let's go back and let's run it back. Let's do it again. Jason Witten, from wearing the star to the booth to back wearing a star. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Enjoying every day. I think it's been a lot of fun, and this is always a good time. It's a grind, as you well know, but it's also a good time when the team comes together. And you when you go through the journey, you think back at these moments. So if that's been a good 2 weeks, obviously we got a lot to improve on.
Well, look, there's a ton I want to ask you about, but first, I guess, how does your body feel? Like, because there is shape and then there's football shape, right? And to those of us who have played sports, like you could even like football, you can't really play with your boys, but you can go play basketball. But then you go and have like a real workout, and your body. Like, how are you now? A couple weeks in,
I feel good. I feel like. I'm always hesitant to say that because all old players, as they're towards the end of their career, like, this is the best I felt. This is the best I felt. And truly, I think that year off helped me. And then making the decision in March was huge because now I got the entire offseason. I felt like I was building towards this, And so I haven't had a moment this entire offseason, especially this training camp, where I'm like, dang, I don't know how I'm going to get through the day. This is going to be a grinder. I haven't felt that. And that's probably what was so hard when I did retire. I didn't feel like I can't produce, I can't win on one-on-one matchups. I know what my role is within this offense and convert some third downs and make some first downs and help this team win some games. So I'm fortunate that I play a position for whatever drop-off I probably have had over the course of my career. My game was never really built on those certain things. And so I feel confident that, I can play just as well as I've ever played. And whatever role that is, it'll work itself out.
Yeah, it's Antonio Gates. We do the Chargers camp every year. We talk to them. And, last year this time he was sitting out. They're like, look, at some point, tight end, you're not built on speed.
You're right.
It's about understanding angles and reading the defense and, just catch it where it's thrown to you and relationship-wise. If you could do it again, would you?
That's the ultimate question. I've tried really hard in my life never to look back. There's been challenges in adversity my entire life to never look back. And honestly, I learned a lot last year through that experience. So I'd say no. In the fact of if you told me that was going to be my last football game and I didn't know I was going to have this opportunity again, then I'd say, yes, I made a mistake because I was not ready to retire. I was not ready to stop competing. I was not ready to winning and losing mattered to me still. I felt like there was something in me I could give to a football team. And so if I didn't have this opportunity again on the other side, then, it was the wrong decision because my heart wasn't ready to give it up. But knowing that, I think I'm a better player having gone through that season and the experience in the booth.
Why? What did you learn from not playing, from going around the league, watching, was it 8 training camps, and then, going to all the sites? What did you pick up? Well,
I think the first thing is just internally, the old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. The fact of how much I love this game. And I truly, if you ask my teammates over the course, I was a guy that really tried to master his craft every day. So not from the moments of that, but, you're so engulfed in being the best, that sometimes you don't take a step back and smell the roses a little bit. But then that would be the first part of having another opportunity and enjoying every part of that process that goes into it. And however long it lasts, nobody knows. It's a show me game, and I got to be able to produce. But going to these other teams and seeing how they put together a team and do that in an unemotional way. People always say, when you're evaluating players or teams, most people have a jaded perspective when they're doing it. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity Monday Night Football to go in there and really pull back, kind of have a 30,000-foot view of it and say, people would always form narratives on it and you're able to kind of say, well, no, really what they were trying to do was this. And a great example of that was first game I called was the Oakland Raiders and against the Rams last year, week 1. And so I kind of was hearing the hype of Sean McVay, and to see, I'm like, wow, these are things that he does really well, and it paid off for him. But then on the Oakland side of it, they traded Khalil Mack right before that first week. So I got to hear Oakland's side of it. John Gruden, the ownership of why they traded that away, what they felt like they got. And then the next week you called the Bears. And now you're hearing their perspective of their coaching staff and their general manager say, well, this is why we made that trade. And you catch yourself and man, that's interesting. What would I have done in that situation? And so from an overwhelming football knowledge and understanding, It's a great perspective. And now I bring that back of how can I apply that and help our football team.
You had a gap year at 36 years old, right? Like you had a gap year. You got to go kind of study abroad, if you will.
That's
Jason
right.
Witten joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show here live at Dallas Cowboys training camp. When you left, Dak had come off, I think what people would seem a disappointing year, but a hard year, right? Because he and Dez was seemingly aging, and there was some frustration there in terms of their inability to connect in comparison to how he and Tony always connected. It was also the year where Zeke was suspended, and you guys fell off when he missed 6 games. And, there were some other injuries and some other issues that led to you not having a great year. Fast forward now, 2 years later?
Yeah.
And now you're in training camp, and now Dak's been the guy. He's obviously in a contract renegotiation, but as a player and playing within his offense and in a new offense, that's one thing that's lost is it's a new offense. What is Dak like now in comparison to how he was 2 years ago?
Well, the first thing I would say is he's always been, since minute one he got here, off the charts with all the intangibles. I mean, when you say teammates would run through a wall for him, every guy in that locker room would do that. And that matters. That matters in today's game. I think a lot of people just say, give me the best players and get out of the way. I really believe that part matters to your football team. And then offensively, I think his understanding, he's performed at a high level, right? He's made the playoffs 2 out of 3 seasons that he's been the quarterback, 9-7 the other year. So he's produced at a high level. His record speaks for itself. But I just think when you talk about mastering your craft, it's all the things that go into splits, alignment, tempo in and out of the huddle. But then his ability to kind of anticipate throws, the velocities he's throwing it. Hey, I'm trying to get that to you sooner before that corner can unfold and make a play. So just coverage and anticipation of the game. It's a fast game, certainly a quarterback. I think the best ones throw you open.
Yeah.
They see it beforehand. They understand risk versus reward. And so his ability to create and do all these things outside the pocket, I think, speaks for itself. He's definitely a winner from that standpoint. But I'm talking inside the pocket, his understanding of this offense and demanding everybody else perform at a higher level, I think is off the charts. It's always been at a high level, but I can see huge improvement.
What is the biggest difference in the offense?
Well, time will tell. But I think, first thing I would say, the core of this offense is very similar. I think –
Which is what? Because last year, I'll just tell you how they spun it to us last year. Last year we come here and they're like, look, this whole number 1 wide receiver thing, having an elite tight end, we're just going to find the mismatch.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have different formations and find the mismatch and pick. And obviously there just wasn't enough mismatches, and they had to bring in Amari, and I obviously didn't have you to fall back on. But is the core of the offense, it's running the football? What's the core? When you say the core of the offense, what is it?
I think it is, the identity is to be a attacking offense that's established through its running game. And what may be different now than probably, the last few years past was I don't think that it always has to be run, set up, pass. I think it's like when you're going to attack, you can pass, set up the run. They do need to mirror each other and be married up from the standpoint of runs look like pass looks like run. Yeah. That's very elementary from that standpoint. But I think, what I think this offense understands is when you have this style of we're going to control the line of scrimmage, run action, play action, downhill with Ezekiel Elliott, a handful of plays, matter. And I think when you look at when we won the time of possession, or I should say they last year, I think the record was 8-0 when they won the time of possession for the game. So that doesn't just mean running the football. I think it's an attacking offense when that happens. But within that formula, there has to be big plays that come into it. Explosives. You can't just think that you're going to go on 16-play, 80-yard drives, and we're not immune to that. And I think that's where Kellen comes in. I think Kellen's done a good job of attacking in certain situations. Hey, they're doing this. We need to do this, adjusting off of it. So I think when you look at the really good coordinators or play callers in this league and offenses as a whole, because it's not always just about the play caller, Patrick Mahomes matters. Tom Brady matters. Different playmakers, Travis Kelce, that matters. But I think when you look at it, it's like there's 4 to 6 plays that are game-changing plays. Right. And you're not going to hit on all of them. But when I look at Sean McVay's system, or I look at Andy Reid and different offenses, in our offense at times when it's performing at a high level, there's these handful of plays that they had no chance. on that play, the defense. And I think that's where you're always trying to get back to. Starts with Amari Cooper. Obviously, it starts with the running game. We feel like we have weapons. And then you find in these wrinkles. I mean, Gallup's coming on in his second year. Randall Cobb is a huge addition. Hopefully I can convert some third downs. Tony Pollard will be a new guy to that. So I think that's the core of this offense. Kellen's feel of adjustments, how all that fits in. RPO game's a big part of that. Shifts and motions, hiding some of those looks is a big part of it. And then, creating matchups, to where we can take advantage of what the defense is giving us. And people always say, like, well, they don't know his tendencies yet. New coordinator,
right.
There'll be some new wrinkles. I mean, they'll find out. What people mean by that is what I'm trying to say is, like, what do those 4 to 6 plays look like when we haven't seen them in the past, and hopefully they work out in a positive way for us.
I mean, is it exciting? I mean, is it because there's some newness? I mean, Kellen's obviously very young.
Yeah.
Comes, Boise State and obviously spending time here in the league. Like, it feels like there's a little bit more of a creative look at some of the same things you've been trying to do.
Yeah, and I mean, some of them are sample sizes of it. You're not seeing a ton of it at different times, and I think it's all going to evolve. It's always evolving. You look what Andy Reid's done with that offense in Kansas City. So I think it helps when you have really good players.
Yes.
And then it starts with Dak's ability. I think he's just at another level with the throwing of the football and how he's creating these plays, because you start throwing in zone reads and now RPOs and bootlegs outside the pocket. But then also Amari Cooper's been great in the quick game. I mean, he's a hard matchup in one-on-one. So, I mean, all that kind of coming together, I think it's a powerful offense. But you can't just rely on, we're good up front, we're going to win it, and Zeke's going to carry us there. I mean, certainly Zeke's a huge part of that, but that's what you're trying to figure out.
Speaking of Zeke, obviously not your first camp.
Yeah.
So not your first Dallas Cowboy camp with a holdout.
No question.
Or with contract discussions. Does it in any way invade the meeting rooms, that like all of this other talk? Because I'll just tell you, like Twitter, airwaves, what we do, it's all we talk about.
Yeah.
What about within the insular world of the Dallas Cowboys? Do you guys hear or talk about it?
Very little does it affect your team. I mean, I think this team's unique in that guys genuinely care about others. So, I mean, obviously players want to see other players get paid and work out. It really hasn't been – it's been a non-issue for our football team. I mean, first off, I think camp's a time of individually, what can I improve on? Collectively, what can we improve on? And that's lingering out there and it's going through. But I don't know. I just – maybe it's just my confidence in this organization of like, hey, look, when they have a really good player and they say they want to try to get something done, it usually works out.
Right. And,
it just makes sense. I mean, Zeke wants to be here. They want him here. At some point it doesn't need to happen. Right. You know what I mean? Like, the further along this goes, I mean, I think we all need reps, and no matter what kind of training, and I trust that Zeke's doing a lot of good training, there's nothing like playing football. And so you hope it's sooner than later, but really it's been a non-issue for our football team. And I think that starts with just kind of who those guys are. They're a big part of our team. I mean, nobody loves playing and practicing like Zeke does. I mean, Dak's here, Amari, how they approach it. So kind of been a non-issue for us, and I think this team, when you play for this organization, it's the bright lights. If you get caught up in every little thing that happens, I mean, you're never going to accomplish what you hope to, and I mean, he's a huge part of this football team.
Last thing, how likely is this your last training camp?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think at this point, when I came back, I never said, okay, I'm playing 1 year. If we win the Super Bowl, I'm done. That's not entered my mind. I mean, I've truly – going back to the Monday Night Football, I never even thought about broadcasting. Just like, okay, in real time, you're in that situation. It happens.
You're like, I got to take this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think 95% of the people would probably do the same exact thing.
99.
Yeah. But so, look, nobody's standards for myself are higher than what I put on me. And I think when you approach it that way, it's like you're going to know when it's time,
right.
And it's like, as long as I can play at a high level, and that's a good question. Will you be able to perform at that level? I hear that a lot, and it's like, well, I'm trusting myself that I'm putting in that work that's going to allow me to be successful in that situation. So very much could be my last training camp, but also, could keep it going. But regardless, I really try not to think about that, and it's like, hey, go enjoy the day. After you've gone through what I've been through as far as like retiring and then coming back, just if there's one thing, it's kind of keep planting grass, you know, and like don't worry about all the other things going on. Just keep planting grass, and if you do that, the weeds will disappear.
Jason Witten, Dallas Cowboys, back in the Star. Thanks so much.
All right, appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus everybody else who's awesome here on Fox Sports Radio.